Another day, another story. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol's cabinet has reversed a martial law order in the country just hours after he issued the surprise decree that plunged Seoul into political uncertainty and sparked fierce backlash from lawmakers across the political spectrum. The cabinet decision came after Yoon backtracked on his short-lived decree in the early hours of Wednesday local time and withdrew the troops deployed to carry out the order. South Korean lawmakers, who had scrambled earlier in the night to block the martial law order with a parliamentary vote, are now calling for resignations. Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. The opposition Democratic Party says it will begin impeachment proceedings against Yoon if he doesn't step down immediately. We will not sit idly by and watch President Yoon's crime of destroying the Constitution and trampling on democracy, the party said. President Yoon should immediately resign voluntarily. The president must directly and thoroughly explain this tragic situation, he added. The Minister of Defense, who recommended this martial law, should be immediately dismissed, and all those responsible must be held strictly accountable. The last time a South Korean president declared martial law was in 1980, during a nationwide uprising led by students and labor unions. Soldiers leave the National Assembly after South Korea's parliament passed a motion requiring the martial law declared by President Yoon Suk Yeol to be lifted in Seoul, South Korea, December 4, 2024. Yoon had declared martial law in a surprise late-night address on Tuesday, reviving memories of a more painful, authoritarian past as troops attempted to enter the main hall of the National Assembly and people against the measure gathered outside following his announcement. The president accused the main opposition party of sympathizing with North Korea and of anti-state activities, citing a motion by the opposition Democratic Party, which has a majority in parliament, to impeach top prosecutors and reject a government budget proposal. Lawmakers worked swiftly to block the martial law decree in the hours after Yoon's declaration, with 190 of the 300 members of parliament voting to overturn the measure. Hours of uncertainty. When he declared martial law, Yoon had labelled the opposition's actions as clear anti-state behaviour aimed at inciting rebellion. He further claimed these acts have paralysed state affairs and turned the National Assembly into a den of criminals, to safeguard a liberal South Korea from the threats posed by North Korea's communist forces and to eliminate anti-state elements. I hereby declare emergency martial law, Yoon said in the address. He described martial law as a necessary measure to eradicate these shameless pro-North anti-state forces, justifying the decision as essential to protect the freedoms and safety of the people, ensure the country's sustainability, and pass on a stable nation to future generations. Soldiers advanced to the main building of the National Assembly following the South Korean president's announcement. Yonhap news agency of Reuters, while Yoon did not clarify what specific measures would be taken, Yonhap reported, citing the full military decree, which bans all political and parliamentary activities and allows arrests without a warrant. The decree also prohibits denying free democracy or attempting a subversion, and outlaws fake news and manipulating public opinion. People who violate the decree can be arrested or raided without the need for a warrant, Yonhap added. Citing the same document, Reuters reported that strikes, work stoppages, and rallies that incite social chaos are also prohibited. That includes doctors who had been engaged in a walkout. They have been ordered by the decree to return to work within 48 hours. Just after 1 a.m. in Seoul on Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. ET Tuesday, dozens of troops who had entered the main parliamentary building prior to the vote were seen withdrawing, according to Korean newspaper Chosun Ilbo and local television stations. Citizens waiting outside the building cheered when news came of the lawmakers' vote, according to Chosun Ilbo, with some shouting, "Long live the Republic of Korea," and "Yoon Suk Yeol, step down." Police attempt to hold back people trying to enter the National Assembly in front of the main gate in Seoul late on Tuesday. Yoon Yeol AFP Getty Images President's declaration stuns residents and lawmakers. The initial martial law announcement sent shockwaves through the country. Residents in Seoul rushed to be with family members, according to a CNN team on the ground. Walking through the streets, there are people who are running to their families' homes to be with them, to figure out what to do, to be close to loved ones in this moment that is unprecedented in so many of our memories, Mike Valerio reported from Seoul. People were told by law enforcement that they could be arrested without warrants being needed under martial law, Valerio added. There are whole multitudes of people across Seoul who are stunned and are trying to figure out how an unpopular president made this move, what is going to happen next, and what this means for a democracy here in South Korea, he said. The leader of the opposition Democratic Party, jae-myung, said the emergency martial law declaration was unconstitutional, calling it a move that goes against the people, Yonhap reported. President Yoon declared emergency martial law for no reason, Lee said. Tanks, armored vehicles, and soldiers with guns and swords will soon control the country. When the president backtracked on his efforts in the early hours of Wednesday, he reiterated his criticism of the opposition party, saying they were frustrating the moves of his government in a statement. We request the National Assembly to immediately stop its reckless actions that paralyze the functions of the state through repeated impeachment, legislative manipulation, and budget manipulation, he said. Who is South Korea's President Yoon Suk Yeol? Yoon, representing the Conservative People Power Party, has served as president of South Korea since 2022. He won the election by a razor-thin margin, pulling ahead of rival Lee by less than 1 percentage point. Yoon was a newcomer to politics, having spent the previous 27 years of his career as a prosecutor. Since taking office, succeeding the Liberal President Moon Jae-in, he has faced a raft of challenges, from the perma-threat of North Korea to rising tensions between South Korea's major partners, the US and China, as well as plummeting birth rates. He has long taken a tough stance on North Korea, a shift from his predecessor, Moon, who favored dialogue and peaceful reconciliation. Yoon lambasted this approach as subservient. Yoon instead promised to bulk up South Korea's military, even hinting he would launch a preemptive strike if he saw signs of an offensive launch against Seoul. Yoon has seen his popularity ratings plunge since he took office, thanks to a series of scandals and controversies that even prompted hundreds of thousands to call for his impeachment. Tuesday's martial law announcement stunned South Korea's allies. The Biden administration was not notified in advance of Yoon declaring martial law, a spokesperson for the National Security Council said in a statement. The United States is watching the developments in South Korea with grave concern, Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell said at an event as he underscored the US's alliance with South Korea being ironclad. Alongside Japan and the Philippines, which also boast a mutual defense treaty with the US, South Korea is part of a trio of regional powers that have helped to bolster American power in both Asia and the Pacific for decades. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.